Oi guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far after so much drama after the Major 2 championship that FaZe just took down in Miami. Lots of discussion as well on the future of the Gentleman's Agreement. This weekend was really the first time we have seen in this type of setting some GAs start to get broken again. Some red cards thrown around, some yellow cards thrown around to Cellium and to Sib and potentially others. Scrappy says the New York Subliners have been breaking GAs now for a very long period of time. Snaking, stair glitching, what's the repercussions going to be? Scrap says potentially GAs thrown out the window entirely, or massive repercussions in terms of scrim results and potentially scrim practice and blacklisting shortly after this event. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Of course, yesterday the event concludes. FaZe take down OpTic. This was again the map that OpTic won twice in this series, at least in terms of this series, and the series prior, that terminal search and destroy, and OpTic finished second again. That's 3 grand finals in the last couple of years. OpTic have now been second in all 3 of them. Last year, I think their roster, with Ghosty and with Hukon, of course, as it was with Shotzzy and Dashy at the time, they were good at getting to finals, but in the finals, they lost that event to Toronto in Texas. They lost the next event to the Los Angeles Thieves at the Pro-Am, so they just couldn't get over the line. This time, I think they just lost to the better team, but there were so many moments where if they just had a bit more production out of someone that wasn't Kenny, they get over the line in at least a couple of those respawn maps, I'm sure, and FaZe just had a little bit too much ice at the end of the day. This was kind of crazy as well from Los Angeles Gorillas, I'm not going to lie. Wins versus FaZe in the last calendar week, effectively, from Sunday to Sunday. Gorillas won, everyone else in the league, 0, right? Gorillas took down FaZe, and at the time there was the talk, damn, like, what's going on here? Surely Gorillas aren't this good, or are FaZe vulnerable, right? We talked about it going into the Major. Would that loss affect them? My feeling was that they would bounce back emphatically. But to be honest, they played Thieves, and Thieves were on the verge of going up 2-0 with a 5-3 lead in the search and destroy. And arguably, Thieves would have a better fight in those first couple of maps that OpTic did in the series they played this past weekend. So then, of course, after FaZe didn't come out so well against them, I was like, okay, how will they turn it around? Especially given that FaZe on Sundays typically don't have the greatest performances, but this was the time that they did. And honestly, FaZe have won, what, 3 of the 4 Major 2 tournaments, I think, over the last couple of years. So whatever it is at Major 2, FaZe always tend to win. And in Miami, I guess, to be fair, back in the day, United were the team that won with Simp and aBeZy that CDL Miami playoffs way back in 2019 in Black Ops 4 before, of course, they went back-to-back and won the World Championship as well. Drazah was talking all sorts of trash on this one as well about running the organization and all this type of stuff. And obviously there was people throwing around this clip from Methods who said at the time when Drazah made the call, because Drazah made it very public, he had received an offer from OpTic in the offseason that was made, it was more money, I'm pretty sure, and this is why I think the OpTic guys got kind of frustrated about him, and there was a bit of drama there as well at the time, because Drazah said, yeah, OpTic offered me more money, but I said no, went to FaZe because I'm going to win at FaZe, and I'm going to smoke OpTic the entire year, and that's what has happened so far. So OpTic need to figure out, okay, how the hell do we get over this FaZe hump? Because as I said earlier today, OpTic this season are 17-2 in the series they played, not against Atlanta FaZe. Against FaZe, they're 0-5. That's a pretty similar record to what FaZe have had against OpTic over the last few years, and it just seems like Drazah has brought the mentality. I don't know whether it was a mental block or anything like that FaZe were dealing with against OpTic over the last couple of years, but it's something to think about that Drazah's come in, shifted the mentality, makes FaZe feel like they're not going to lose to OpTic ever again, and well, so far they have not. Dashy had a really tough series as well. Now, the numbers don't tell the entire story here, to be fair, because Dashy did have a lot of damage in this series, but and obviously there were some specific moments such as that final hill on Skid Row, and there were some questionable spawns happening, I think, like all day, pretty much, especially on that invasion hardpoint. I really hope we don't need to watch any more invasion this season. Unfortunately, we will. The top teams kind of still like to play it because it's not the worst map in the game, but the hardpoints spawns simply don't make any sense. And invasion control is, most of the time, very painful to watch. The search, I suppose, is okay. But I think with Vista and with departures getting trialed over the next couple of days, they're going to be in ranked very soon indeed. Hopefully we can see some changes there in the map pool going forward. And as I say, Dashy's damage for having a 0.78 in the grand finals and for having 73 kills was very high. Like, Kenny had, okay, 2,500 damage more than Dashy, but way more kills. And Dashy had had significantly more damage than Pred and more than Shotzzy, despite having fewer kills. But still, on paper, Dashy had in the 0.7s both series against FaZe. And it's a question as to exactly why. He didn't play his best COD. It was really only Kenny shooting back at times for OpTic, and with how close some of these maps were, if they just had a bit more production out of somebody else. Shotzzy started a fair few maps slow, but then he turned it around. Pren and Dashy just didn't have their greatest grand finals or series generally against FaZe at all. And obviously, as Formal says, no matter what happens, gotta tip Kenny, who was absolutely frying today, and just shows how much of a valuable asset he has been to add to this team. But the guys that have been the mainstays for OpTic, they didn't really deliver, especially Dashy. And I think this is a key story to keep your eyes on, really, right? Because Dashy's won, what, one LAN event in the last 5 years, really? I mean, I suppose since Vegas at the end of 2018, then they won at the start of Vanguard in 2022. Apart from that, there have been a fair few finals for OpTic, but no event victories. And Dashy hasn't really played that well in those situations. So there's questions there as to whether Dashy, you know, because you watch Dashy play sometimes, especially when they lost that control, you know, head in his hands. From a mental perspective, does he have the dog in him that Drazah has? That's a question. Is he a winner in the same way that Formal was, you know? Because Formal and Dashy, in terms of raw gunny and potential and skill, not too dissimilar. But there are other factors in play why Formal won so many events and why Dashy hasn't, right? So, look, I think they lost to the better team in FaZe, but nonetheless, you can't really overlook some of these performances and question, especially if OpTic can't get over that hump again for the second season in a row, making finals and not winning, then, you know, instead of talking about FaZe's Silver Surfers, we've got to talk about something else. This was the team of the major, by the way, that the OpTic guys put together on the breakdown. Simp and aBeZy, no-brainer there. Kenny and Scrappy, I think, honestly, they did a pretty killer job putting this together because these were some great players and teams. I think HyDra isn't far away from this conversation either, really, but Simp and aBeZy were just way too good in the end to overlook, and you can't really put one without the other, the way that they took turns taken over this series. We do have to discuss, though, other players in some of those series, such as Cellium. Now, we talked about this in length after this series happens, the Cellium snaking incident here on the Invasion Search and Destroy. I think this is a snake. I think it's a little bit, you know, there is a bit of variability here because he crouches, then he stands up, he crouches, he stands up, and then he, of course, hits them with a little pop-up. And, well, you can see on the right-hand side here from the third-person perspective, this to me looks more of a snake from this angle. There's still some debate on it. Now, okay, New York Subliners eventually lost this map 5. The question is, to many, did HyDra do this, or did Cellium do this to HyDra, sorry, because there's some previous bad blood with regard to breaking gentlemen's agreements? That was a conversation, and we saw Skyz snake, for example. That was really the first drama, actually, when Skyz snaked on this map Karachi back against Los Angeles Guerrillas way back in the start of the season, and this was considered a yellow card here for Sib as well in this 1v1 against Pred. We saw the red card come out from Zuma to Cellium in that previous circumstance. So we've seen a couple of GAs broken this weekend. It's a big question, right? Will there be repercussions for this? At the start of the season, when the GAs were kind of locked in and everything was happening, yeah, there were repercussions. Teams, especially Seattle Surge, they were losing practice. They were getting blacklisted from scrims. They were losing their warm-ups. They were getting 1 week of no scrims to punish this type of activity. Will the teams uphold that type of stuff against the top rosters? Because if they don't, and they don't blacklist FaZe for the Cellium thing for at least a few days, or New York for potentially this one, then you're basically getting away with it and you're allowing the players to break the GAs and have no repercussions as a result, just because they're a top team and you want to practice against them, you know, because no one's going to, are they going to blacklist FaZe, the best team in the game? People want to learn from them in scrims. This is kind of the issue. So Scrappy yesterday comes on the flank actually very briefly and shows a clip of the Subliners guys seemingly stair glitching, and his implication is that there's been some cheating going on, some breaking of gentlemen's agreements going on, especially from New York, basically all season long.
I mean, we saw some great stuff out of the Carolina Royal Ravens, one of those teams on
who's this, Sib? Was he stair glitching?
Making a little bit of a run, beating the Vegas Legion and the home team of Miami Heretics. And we also
well, you got, if he's stair glitching, then you, so you gotta say something in the GA chat.
Fame and crew, but it's the Subliners. It's all about Toronto Ultra, OpTic, and Atlanta.
You like that?
Only 2 of them remain when we come back.
But what, is anybody talking in the GA chat? You said New York's doing it the whole weekend? What, they've been stair glitching all weekend? The whole year?
He comes off spawn.
Oh my God, how is fucking number 4 still alive? Oh, he's got a streak.
He's got a streak already? Telling you, Pat.
He's going to cruise.
That's what I said, bro. Kenny's been getting shit on.
Oh my god, there's a trophy right
But this is land. But this is land, Sam.
Nah, bro. Kenny's.
I said he's a star.
On land, he's a superstar.
No, he's a star.
I don't know, it's land.
A superstar.
No one cares,
best of the
Pat.
best.
Nobody cares.
Clearly, you do. You keep saying it, yapping in my ear.
Yapping in your ear because it's a shit take and you're wrong.
I'm not, bro.
Okay. Oh,
Paco found 3.
You're just a fan, but I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Ultra's in grand finals right now, waiting to play.
They will be at COD Champs.
They were
no, you said
supposed to be
event.
this event.
It's all good.
You said they were testing map pool online and they got chokeslam 3-0'd out the tournament, brother.
They are for the whole year.
Oh, that's
why
what
they'll be
I was gonna pick them up and move it to, but that's cool.
That's why they'll be the 2024 World Champs.
Dog shit take and you don't watch the games.
Yo, HyDra's going.
I mean, I'm glad I don't, and you do. You're wasting your own time.
Wasting my own time.
25.
Shit, wait.
You're a fan of COD in 2024, bro. That's unbelievable.
Weird behavior.
Lock.
That's unbelievable.
Sam, I like that you watch the game, Sam. I like that.
So this is where Scrappy is raising the question, right? So this is when Scrappy's raising the question, like, what do we do about this? Scrappy's been one of the guys that's been at the forefront of trying to get some repercussions here. He was talking about the potential aBeZy auto tactical sprint stuff way back in, well, I think it was talked about in January, but from potentially matches back in December. And he's been pushing hard to try and say, look, if people are going to break GAs, we've got to punish them. But it seems like there isn't really that much punishment happening. And his thought is that, yeah, like, I'm talking about New York breaking these GAs. Plenty of examples, apparently. Maybe we'll see some examples over the coming days discussed on this from this weekend. But, you know, New York, sometimes pretty cheese team. They pull out all the tricks in the book. When Skyz did the snake and then he said, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. It's like, well, okay, I don't know so much about that. And we're potentially seeing more of it this past weekend when it comes down to a big tournament with big money on the line. Do you trust these players to withhold or uphold their GAs come the World Championship? I'm not necessarily sure I do. So therefore, will the GAs even last to the World Championship? This game has been far better to watch than last year because we have no snaking. It is just phenomenal that after all this talk over the last couple of years that, well, you can't GA it, you definitely can. And we've had it now for several months. The game has been much better to watch. The question is, can you actually maintain that over time? And Kenny kind of agrees. He's like, look, there's so many GAs getting broken right now, and people are getting away with it. No repercussions are happening. So what's the next step? The next step is everybody does it. Who cares? Like, the GAs go out the window. If people are going to do it and get away with it and not get punished, then the implication is that other teams are going to do it too. And this is basically what Scrappy is saying. I think really this is his kind of final straw, Scrappy, to say, look, either we get this sorted now and we actually have some repercussions for these New York guys and potentially Cellium and stuff breaking GAs this weekend. And if we don't, then, well, chalk it up. I'm going to be snaking, I'm going to be stay glitching, I'm going to be pulling out all the cheese in the book here going forward to get these victories because, well, everyone would do it at this point if there's not going to be serious repercussions for teams doing exactly that. So Cellium kind of kicked off a lot of this discussion. He did continue, by the way, his 1+ KD tournament streak now to 20, so that's 20 tournaments in a row that Cell has had a 1+ KD. The record is Scump with like 47 or something, so quite a while away. HyDra, Skyz, Drazah, Scrappy, Ghosty, and Attach. Here they are closing out the list. So just before we close the video, I wanted to have a look at some of the standings here. So Boston, dead last of the league at 50 points. It is still absolutely all to play for, and there is a massive separation between the top 4 and the rest. But Boston are last. Thieves are dead last, or second dead last, with 60 points. Then there's a tie between Miami and Surge at 70. Ravens, after their good top 6, have leapfrogged the lot. They're up to 75. But then you look further up, Gorillas, they're in 7th, tied with Legion at 90 because, of course, Gorillas, with their back-to-back top 6 performances now, despite only winning 3 series online, they've done enough on land to get to 7th place. Vegas are up to 6th here with 90 as well. They could have got all the way to 5th, of course, with a decent or with a better result this weekend, and Rocker still just about to hold on to that 100 points in 5th place. But, yeah, of course, the cutoff of the World Championship is right about here. It's still all to play for all of these teams down there because, well, none of them seem to be able to make it far enough in tournaments to really be able to put up a massive performance. So that's when, going into the final event, there will be the possibility for, like, every team possibly to still make it to champs if they were to win the event. But realistically, top 4 and arguably top 6 is the best you're going to do. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.